as we shout your name, receive our praises, receive our praises. And as we love on you, receive our love, receive our love. And as we shout your name, receive our praises, receive our praises. Let's sing it together. Your name is high, be glorified. There's no other name, no other name, no other name like yours. Come on and sing. Your name is high, be glorified, for you are great.
You are great, you are great, greatly to be praised.
So we lift your name.
We lift your name.
Hallelujah. We thank you for your name, for it is a strong tower where the righteous can run in and find safety. So we sing this declaration to you as we love.
As we love
On you. Receive our love this morning, God.
receive our love,
Receive our.
receive our love.
And as we shout your precious name,
As we shout your name,
receive our praises.
receive our praise,
Receive our praises.
receive our
Let's do that again. As we love
on you.
receive our love, Jesus.
Our love,
We just want you to be magnified.
receive our love.
And as we shout your precious name,
We shout
your name,
your name.
receive our praises. Receive our praises.
Our praise.
For your name is high.
Your name is high.
Be glorified. Yeah. No other name like yours.
No other name, no other name like yours.
For your name is high. Be glorified. For you are great.
You are great, greatly to be praised.
We lift your name. Let's take it out.
Lift your name.
Hallelujah. So we declare that your love is greater, your strength is greater, your grace is greater, your peace is greater, and that's why we lift you. Hallelujah. We exalt you, Jesus, and we sing, oh, oh, oh. Come on and say that with me. Oh, oh, oh. Let's make that declaration one more time. Oh, oh, oh. And we sing this, we say this. Sing your love,
Hey family, how you doing? My name is Elijah McCutcheon and I'm so honored to be with you again on tonight as we go deeper into our series, Kingdom Principles for Single Living. These last 2 weeks, phenomenal, amazing. They've been answering some questions that honestly I was a little scared to ask. But we getting through it. We getting the information. We getting it done. So listen, you better stay ready. But listen, I need you to do me a quick favor. I need you to go ahead and like this video and share this video. Come on and like this video. Hey, come on and share this video. Hey, where's my sopranos? Like this video. Share. You know, I can't sing, but the Lord knows. The Lord is kind. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So listen, let me give you a quick little snippet of what we dive in tonight. You ready? All right, so tonight we're gonna hit topics like, is it wrong for a female to initiate dating? What y'all think? That's juicy. I want to know that one. Other questions are about how can we abstain from sex until marriage? What does that take? And then how do you connect with someone who also wants to wait until marriage to have sex? Like, listen, this gets real. So go ahead, get you a little seat, pop some popcorn, get you a cup of water. Hallelujah. Make sure you got a nice little blanket and you ready, because this is about to go down. I can't wait to hear what the bishop and his guests have to say tonight. All right, let's go.
Alrighty. Okay, who seeks for a mate? Is it wrong for a female to approach men and to be the initiator of a relationship, dating and begin together? Asked by a 41-year-old female.
I think the man has to be the initiator. I don't think it's wrong for a woman to make the first move, but I think it is wrong for a man not to take the leadership position. There's nothing wrong with women being in positions of leadership, but in a relationship, it's the man who pursues the woman. It's he that findeth a wife, that finds a good thing, not she that chaseth him down. So it's not that the woman is out of line or out of pocket for wanting to be in a relationship, but the woman is the good thing. The man ought to find her. I think the man ought to pursue her. Now, if the woman asked him out on the first date, I don't think that's a problem. But if she keeps on being the initiator, she keeps on leading the conversation, she picks out the second date and the third date, and she's the first to talk about defining the relationship, that's a problem. I think that's a sign of a man who's not stepping up.
I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, Ashley. My bad.
No, I just was saying, well said.
Oh, I don't know what. I guess I would. What does it mean to seek, right? Because I don't necessarily think seeking is the same as initiating. So, in my mind, you know, seek is relative to desire or to look for. So I would ask that question, what does it mean? Maybe to you ladies, what does that mean to seek?
Well, I mean, you're on the hunt. I would say you're looking for a man. That's what I would think for seeking is. That's in my opinion.
I took it as being the aggressor. So you're actually seeking this person out, you're hunting them down, you're taking, like Josh said, all of the initiative. And I agree with Josh. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking initiative. Sometimes I wonder in today's society if it's based on just personalities, because some women are more outgoing than men, and then some men are more outgoing than women. So I wonder if it's just a personality difference. So let's just say if you have an outgoing female who kind of initiates the initial interaction, I agree with Josh that then he should step into his rightful place and then continue to pursue her, continue to woo her to see if this relationship will blossom into something whole.
You know, I remember when I was 50 years ago, I remember when they brought this up, you know, we were, I guess, personality didn't enter into it. It was just a way that we were taught. 50 years ago, we were just taught we were the initiator. We were the one who really started the conversation. And, you know, and I thought about this, Leah, because you as a counselor, you might have an issue with this, but I thought about it. If you were the initiator, Can you handle a no? Can you handle always being the aggressor? Are you going to send him flowers?
Mm.
Are you going to pay for his dinner? Are you going to open the door, car door for him? And I
Yeah.
thought about that as the initiator. If you're the initiator, there's something that accompanies that, saying that he's not seemingly tracking you, but you're tracking him. It's almost like the roles. If 50 years ago, that would have been roles switched.
Very true. And I think you raised some great questions. And I think when I saw this this question about it says who seeks for the mate, right? There was a lot of different issues that came up as a part of that, right?
Mhm.
So I do agree that traditionally, what was taught, what I think was expected, was that the man would pursue the woman. I think some of that comes from the way things were traditionally. Women were more
Mhm.
home, men were more out in the field. So coming to or the asking for permission, there was a whole different social construct for how dating occurred. Today, it's very different. And I would actually have some female colleagues and clients that would have been very offended at the idea that a woman asking a man out is somehow making her aggressor or making her out of place or out of order. And so I think there's two things occurring at the same time. One is the concept of order, like what is the biblical order if we're thinking about a biblical construct, and then what is preferred or traditional or socially accepted. And I think, I can't remember, I think maybe it was Erica that brought up the idea about a guy maybe not being as outgoing as the woman, right? And so
Yeah.
definitely think today it's allowed for women to ask guys out or to display some interest. I think where it then gets tricky is how do you then talk about leadership? What are your concepts of leadership? Does that mean that the woman has absolutely no say in the decisions that are made in her life and just has to go along? And that would have been a more older mindset and not quite equality. So we have to think about all those things. So I'm just curious as to what you all might think. Certainly, the men's and the women's perspective on order and what does this mean for decision making?
I think we cut Cedric off. He asked what was seeking, and we got dropped him.
Well, no. You're good. You're good. You're good. I think that I just wanted to get a better understanding of the meaning.
Yeah.
There's often a breakdown in communication when we don't agree on what something means. But like I don't know. I feel like not to make an unrighteous comparison, but like I wasn't there. Well, 50 years ago, everybody might be at church like rocking doolies, no makeup, and a long skirt. So how are we deciding what we're going to say goes and what stays? I think that's a fluid. All of those social constructs are kind of like fluid. And even, I mean, I still think dating is such a great area, but like from a biblical standpoint, it's like two things popped in my mind when a sister mother, Leah, was talking.
That's not going to be
Yeah.
your name from now on.
I think I need to change it on my.
Yeah.
Change your name on Zoom. Go ahead and do it.
Yes, yes.
But it's like two things cross my mind. Like one is this dynamic where you have the fella and his pops is like, yo, go to the water and see who feeds your camels, right? And then that person like go after them, and then there's a level of or amount of time where he's like, you talk about pursue, yikes, like that was a significant amount of time. And then you have a different dynamic where it's like, well, what do you do with the like the Naomi Ruth model? You know what I'm saying? Where like it seems like she was like, yo, we gotta eat. So you might want to go over there and talk to this person. So there seems like some variance throughout all of time, and I just don't know who decides what's going and what's going to stay from a certain time period, because we don't move like that in the relationship. We don't move like that, before the relationship, everything. So who's making those decisions, especially when you're talking about somebody that's 41? Like, listen, man. To me, that's like the third quarter of the game, basically, roundabout. Someone between the second and the third quarter of the game, like, take the shot. I mean, I don't know the situation, but that adds a dynamic, because you may be dealing with someone who might be completely unaware that you have interest. So how do you? I don't know. It seems.
But men know, Cedric. I think men know. I think men can read you a mile away.
Oh, Ashley, would you say that again?
They can. Men can read you a mile away. They can tell if you're desperate, if you're needy, if you're lonely. They prey on that and they go after. I feel like as a man, you have to be confident in yourself. Women want confidence. I don't want you coming in here all meek and like, oh, I kind of, it's a yes or no, brother. If you coming over here to step to me, you better come all the way correct, because you know what you want. When you are ready to settle down and you want a wife, you're going to go after what you got. I tell these men all the time, you don't know what it's like to be rich, but you go after that money all the time. So when you want a wife and you know what you want a family, you want to be a husband, you want to be a father, whatever it is, you go after what you want. Mm-hmm. But it's the confidence that you need to have. I think women can still show interest, but still relax. There's a difference between being pursued and chased. See, and I tell women, when you're grown, you don't want some man to chase you. I'm not playing those games with you. If you're really going to pursue me and show me that you really want to be in a relationship with me, then you'll take the proper steps that you need to. But I agree with Bishop. They're not being taught how to pursue a woman properly. So they're just kind of going off on a whim or looking at their friends or whatever the case is. But a lot of men will just tell you women are intimidating to them. But I'm like, I'm not intimidating. I just don't think you're confident enough in yourself, because you're trying to compare yourself to me. I just want you to have enough confidence to know I want to approach you, I want to talk to you, and then we can go from there. But if I'm the one who's always going to start, and I said that last week, you have to start how you want to end up. I'm not going to chase you at all. I don't have to. I really don't have to.
Oh. See, okay, but here's my thing. Here's my thing. And I hear you. But I also think this is one of the reasons why some of us black men don't speak. Because you just said something. You said a man may tell you, I'm intimidated. And then you will say, no, you're not. You just need confidence. So what we're going to do, we're going to just be chill. We're going to be quiet. We're not going to tell you, because that you didn't even listen. Like I mean, I'm not coming for you. I'm just saying, like, that is true. If someone says, out of the daggone abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if someone says, I'm intimidated to talk to you, maybe they are a little shy. Maybe they are intimidated to talk to you. Maybe they know how to get money, but they don't know how to talk to women. Like I mentioned that in the last segment, we talked about that kryptonite. I feel like you all are so unaware of your beauty that you say all these things that don't make sense. Like somebody can look at you and you could be so fine to them that you completely lose your mind, unless you have had a multitude of experiences like that, in which case you might want them to come to you, because you like, you might take the one who's a little less chill about it. You see? So
women are the same way.
What'd you say?
Women know they look good. Women know that they're intimidating. They know I got it going on. I know you're gonna not come over here and look at me, whether it's the bag or the car. It doesn't matter that I know you're intimidated to come talk to me. But fake it till you make it. Don't at least come over and tell me like I'm so intimidated, because at that point you're already starting off. You're already losing before you're starting. My thing is because you're in your mind, you're getting in your mind that you're intimidated. I'm not going to want to talk to you. You're already counting yourself out. Give me a chance to say yes or no. That's what I don't really agree with. Give me a chance first to say yes or no.
I agree with you.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
No, I was just going to say, I hear you and I agree with what you're saying. I also know that it's not that easy. So you might look in the mirror and see your beauty. You have no idea what it looks, what it does to us chemically just to see you, because you don't deal with that. You don't look at yourself and say, I want to have you. Not because you're smart, not because I know your character, no, I just looked at your face and I want to have you. I just looked at your frame and I want to have you. That sentiment is not easy to deal with. And I personally think it takes practice. You know what I'm saying? So like, but it's not simple. So I do hear you. I understand, but I think like when we're growing up, people just thrust you in situations like it's not like when someone teaches you how to drive, it's like, yo, 10 and 2. No one is saying, hey, this is how you initiate conversation. This is how you go about it, which we have that model. We have, people who are talking to us about, you should have money. You should have a place to live. No one is saying this is how you talk to this person. You just see him walking across the street and you like, I got 1 minute and 27 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I do hear you on the confidence piece, but I just don't think that it's that easy. And when you talk about, like, the reason I wanted to understand what you mean by seeking, I think that women are, I could be wrong and I would love to hear what you have to say about it. I feel like women are aware of what they do to be found, so to speak. So like what type of activity, what type of attire, all of that is intentional. So is that it? Do you go out? Like, I hate to, you tell me, but I feel like people who want attention go out in a way that would show that they want a certain type of attention. So is that part of seeking, or is that just like, I just did this for me? I personally don't believe that, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know.
I think some women actually do dress to allow those reactions to arise because they want that attention. They want that male attraction to be running down the street and fawning after them. So I think sometimes women do that on purpose because they want, that they enjoy the attention.
Mm.
Yeah. I think you all have brought up a lot of great.
Yes.
I'm over here like, which one do I catch? I don't know which one to follow, but I will just throw a few things out there. So, Brother Cedric, I love your idea about beauty, but I want to deepen that just a little bit. That I do think that there's this that happens when guys see girls, right? It's like spellbinding sometimes. It's kind of the way they talk about it, especially if there's someone that they see for whatever their criteria are that really like takes their breath away. It really is an absence of the mind. Like it just kind of in the same way that when we are surprised as women, something really touches us and moves us, it can literally take our breath away. Like, oh. And so that same thing happens to men, but it just happens top down differently, right? It just takes their thought more so than they'll communicate taking their breath. But here's what I think is at play in this exchange, the Ashley Cedric exchange, and that's a concept of vulnerability and risk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm. And so men innately are wired to conquer and to pursue, right? That's kind of how the Lord wired them. They went out, they hunted, they did, they conquered, they slayed. Women were innately kind of the managers. We kind of nurture and manage and make all things work, right? We are the innately, this is general, this is not specific to every woman, right? Or every man, but innately we kind of have that type of zhuzh, for lack of a better word, that kind of glues things together and we can work things out. And so the pairing makes a great pairing, in my opinion. However,
it's intentional.
It's intentional. In dating, sometimes we assume that someone is going to operate in this husbandly authority when they're not even really sure who they are approaching. They don't know anything about you. So that ability to feel confident and secure and bold, some guys have it as a part of their personality. But some guys do not. And I'll give a little example. My husband and I are like, we got a lot of things that are similar, but to some, we're like night and day. He is a lot more observant and quiet, very wise. He's not a man of a whole lot of words, but when he speaks, they have power. But he is also really concerned about rejection. It's not something he likes. He was an athlete, so he's used to a lot of praise, a lot of light. He doesn't really
Affirmation.
care for all of that lights, camera, action. But that is what he was used to. Very accomplished in that area. Me, on the other hand, I am shy. You wouldn't know it, but I am shy but outgoing. I overcompensate for that distress by being like, hey, because if I say hey to you first, then I don't have to worry about whether that, are you going to speak or are you not, right? So two thoughts together. He's going to sit back in the cut and wait and see and watch. And he's very calculated for his moment. I'm going to be the one to be like, what's going on? How you doing? Right? Really may not mean anything that deep to me, right? I may not be trying to pursue you or thinking about it in a pursuit. I'm going to whip out my check just like you might whip out your check. Like it doesn't even come to my mind. So I had to learn with him to be independently dependent. And sometimes women are really good these days of being independent and want to make sure they know, step to me correctly, but they do not have the skill of learning how to be dependent. How do I create a space for a man's leadership? How do I create the opportunity for that man to see where he fits in, where his skills and talent? And when it comes to my husband, when there were moments of us dating, when it started getting where he was in that knowing, like, I think pretty sure she's the one, he started saying things like, she's my girlfriend in training, then I was a fiance in training, and then I was a wife in training. And that was his way of like subtly letting me know where his mind was. And when I heard it, I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm gonna be a wife. No, I was like, let's see what we're talking about. What does it mean to be in training? What are you trying to see? Because I'm not going to be fake. And what about you so far has moved me from this category to the next? Let's explore it a little bit more until he felt comfortable that if he asked either for the relationship to go a little bit further, the defining of the relationship, or for marriage, he was certain and confident that he would get a yes. He was not the kind of guy, and is not the kind of guy that's going to be like, will you marry me? And he doesn't know. Like, that doesn't fit his personality.
That's good.
I think there needs to be a balance when we're talking about dating. We can't be like, come all this way and have these expectations for men, because that can be intimidating in and of itself. I don't even know the way to get in, how to approach you. You just look so together. I don't think that I measure up, but you really might. But they just can't find their way in. At the same time, I do think men need to step up too, right? I think sometimes women, in our need to have men, have also let men off the hook, right? So now we just don't require it. You can come to me however, and I'll accept it. So I think there's a balance. Did I hit
You
on?
know what? You know what? That's. I was thinking while you were talking, Leah. It's personality, it's family background, it's culture. It's all of this comes into play. Yeah. All of this comes into play with a male and a female, and you guys live in a totally different culture and world than what we lived in. So, but I don't think it's any different, because I when you guys are talking about intimidation, guys were intimidated with some girls 50 years ago. Well, that's not a new phenomenon. They were intimidated. There were some girls you knew how to approach. There were some girls you didn't know how to approach. And some guys didn't approach some girls because they didn't want to get turned down. So they said nothing. They said nothing. So I don't think the dynamics between male and female, I don't think it's changed much. I just think there's a cultural shift as to how things are done. But in terms of the dynamics, it's, you know, you can see aggressive girls 50 years ago.
Yes.
So it's really nothing new. It's just how we adjust to that.
Yes.
You know? It really is.
And how we perceive it. And
yes.
And to your point, Bishop, and to your point, Miss Leah, as you were talking, I was thinking about how well, just from hearing you talk, it seems to me you know your husband, how well you know your husband. And then because of your wisdom and your experience, experience, you know this dynamic between a man and a woman. Sometimes we just don't know. And that goes back to what we talked about last week with communication styles. Because you have patience and experience and you listen, you understood how your husband thinks. And now your husband understands how you think. To your point, Bishop, I agree. I don't think the dynamic changes, but I think our perception changes. And I'm not going to ask this question because it wasn't like specifically a question asked in our docket, but I think one facet that we're going to see in all the questions that we address today and in the coming weeks is, what do men wish women knew about them, and what do men wish women knew about them, and what do women wish men knew about them? You know what I'm saying? We as men have a certain way of thinking. Women as women have a certain way of thinking, and we don't see eye to eye. So we can perceive the very same situation very differently. I think it's purple, you think it's fuchsia. You know what I'm saying? Like we're looking at the exact same color, but we just perceive it a different way. So we got to understand each other's communication styles and the way that we perceive relationships.
And I also think we need to take into consideration that today, differently than maybe 50 years ago, people are waiting until they're older to get married. So you're true about approaching, I think, Mr. Cedric, you brought that out about being 41, right? Take the shot. But that concept is the same for a woman. If I'm 41 years old, I don't have time. That's where that part that Ashley was saying rings so true in my ear. Like, I don't have time to play these games. Like, what we're gonna do? Let's because we're in a different. I've been living on my own for however many years I've been living on my own. Like, coming in trying to treat me like I'm 12, 14, 15, like we're little lovesick teenagers. It's just not the same. But we do need to learn how to relate. And I think churches that are doing, like New Covenant, that's doing things like this, a platform to be able to have a conversation that brings together these dynamics, that is what we need today. Right. Or churches and organizations doing that.
Okay, next question. That was answered thoroughly, right. I think. Josh, are you the next?
Yes, sir, I'm the next. The next question is, as a man who's not a virgin, how do I not come across as a hypocrite when telling a woman that I want to wait until marriage for sex? I made a pact 5 years ago, which I've kept, that I'd abstain until marriage. However, I've had difficulties having this conversation with women who don't want to abstain until marriage. Follow-up question. It's impossible to find a woman with my mindset nowadays, even in the church. How do I navigate conversations with good women on this topic without making our difference in opinion become a deal breaker?
Like, how old is he? Let me find him, Leah, okay?
It's like, I'm just kidding. It doesn't say how old he is. It doesn't say how old he is.
I was like, how old is he? Let me find him, okay? I'm just kidding.
Hey, but that's real. Yeah, it doesn't say.
I don't know what to do about the first part of the question, like in terms of coming across as a hypocrite. I mean, don't worry about it. There's a lot of people, a lot of us have a story, a lot of us have come from something, and the people who knew us or think they know us may have some awareness to that, and they may want to hold you hostage to that activity. But like, whatever, like, you don't tell them anything. You could just state your position, this is where I am. And then I wouldn't worry about their perception of you as some kind of hypocrite. Like, nah, forget that part. I don't think it's impossible to find someone who wants to maintain that. I think I know a lot of people who are interested in maintaining. I mean, a lot. I know I have a fair amount of platonic friends who are interested in maintaining that standard as well. So it might be the proximity, or like who you picking. Like, if we talk about church, pick somebody toward the front. You know what I mean? Like,
not in the club section.
No, like, who was there on time? Like probably aim for someone who is like who probably matches. That's what I think. I don't think it's impossible though. I don't. I don't want to belittle the cat's experience or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's impossible.
But did you ever think that that person might be able to make impact on that young lady who may have had a different mindset until she met him?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that could work another way too. For you to say there's nobody there, then what he should be thinking about is, if I find somebody, I'm not there to change you, but I would like for you to see how I deal with the relationship, which may change her.
Yes. I wholeheartedly agree. That transparency that he would have by sharing his story, the reason for his choices, may be able to, a light bulb go off in her head to say, wow, you know, I never really thought of it that way. Thank you for explaining that to me. Now I can understand, and now that may make me want to pursue the same lifestyle. But I wholeheartedly agree with Cedric. It's not impossible to find somebody who wants to abstain from sexual intercourse and then save themselves for marriage.
I don't think it's impossible, but I will say it's hard. I do think it's very difficult and challenging. And just being very transparent, I have a lot of friends who find it very difficult, men and women, especially at this age. You know, you always hear, like, how are you gonna, you know, you want to test drive a car before you buy it. Like, that's the big thing. But I do think it is a great perspective to have, but you have to keep in mind that, you know, there's a lot of people who are going to disagree with you, think that you're crazy. You're going to tell you, like, you're never going to find someone like that. I think a lot, because of you hear that feedback, that people probably do feel it to be impossible. And unfortunately, you know, church or not, some people go to church every Sunday, sit in the front, Cedric, on time, you know what I mean? And they have a totally different mindset where they just feel like, you know, I got to get mine too, or, you know, it's hard, especially when you're like physically attracted to someone and you like them, you have those emotions, it gets going. But I will say, to me, in my experience, I find it's hard for someone that I've come encounter with, you know, to have that same mindset. But I do think it's something good to share, because you don't know, it could change their mind or it may not, but at least you plant the seed. So
Side note, church homies in the back, I love you.
Yes, yes.
I'm just saying. I was joking.
No, you weren't.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, I think there's something to be said about the proximity of like who you're around. You know, it's like, how do you find ways to be around individuals that you would like to be with and or around? I mean, you know, it's like the sum total of my move to New York. Like, if I didn't love what I love or was not passionate about that, there's absolutely no way I would stand for those conditions, you know? So it's there's something to be said about just like finding out, like, maybe in your church, those individuals are in the back or in the middle or in the balcony or in the, I don't know, but like finding where those people are is the whole point of it. You know, like, how do you, because they exist. Like,
Yes.
I mean, there's variance within the community, but like, and I don't want to attack the brother, but like, in capital letters, he said it is impossible to find a woman with a mindset nowadays. And I'm just like, first of all, don't come for women like that. But second of all, it's not true. It's just not true.
Right.
I have friends who are my age who are Christians who have never had a man, you know? So like, so then that's not true. You know what I mean? But how do you find those people, you know, like that's kind of the thing I would imagine, but I don't know.
I have a couple of thoughts there, because this question is actually skirting on one of my areas, right? I am a sex therapist that works with sex issues and dysfunction. And so a lot of couples will come in, and people in general, even individuals, dealing with issues related to sex, premarital sex, is it right, is it wrong, etc. And so there's three things that I think are key here, both now and in the future. And that is when we talk about differences. It is amazing to me how many people come in and because they want to be married or they just happen to develop friendships or relationships, they go forward all the way through marriage, but they don't think the same way, right? There's a difference in their mindset, belief system, moral code, like everything, and sex is a big part of that. And I think, while I don't know the full context of the brother, I agree with Mr. Cedric in terms of I wouldn't let people bring shame and guilt for what you may have done previously, right? We do all have a story, and I think sometimes we just need to own that, even though I think it's very natural for people to then think that disqualifies them from something because they have this story. But
Yes.
if you're finding women who are not wanting to have the same commitment or abstinence, then that's an indication that that's not the woman for you, right? I think trying, as Bishop expressed, to help them understand your perspective and see where the conversation goes. I think communicating about it is important. But if that is absolutely not their mission or their way they see their dating singleness, then that is an indication that that's not the one the Lord is sending for you, right? It's just not the one. And to keep searching. The other thing is, how do we talk through these issues? A lot of times we don't want to talk about these things we feel. Not that it's difficult for us. We're having problems. Like, I want to do it right now. You're looking really good. This is getting challenging for me. I'm trying to abstain, but right now I'm feeling extremely tempted. And I'm going to tell you right now, in my mind, I think I might be okay with doing it, right? We don't have conversations about that. And I think sometimes people feel like, if I say it out loud, or if I admit to that, or if I talk about that, that somehow makes me less of a believer or less committed to abstinence. And that's not the case. I think better than test driving, if we're going to go with the biblical model of it, I think being able to talk about how this thing functions is important. Because clearly God would know in his design that we weren't test driving. So he would have had to have already made a provision for how that's going to work post-marriage if you've not sampled it as a car. But I do think that sometimes we as believers have made the idea of sex, the conversation about sex, and the enjoyment of sex such a taboo, ugly, dirty, shameful thing that we just really can't be free in discovering people that are like-minded, right? And so we conform more to the world's perspective of love and intimacy.
I could imagine 50 years ago having that kind of conversation would have been taboo. Not only taboo, it'd probably been dangerous for us.
Yeah, we would have been
because I think, but I really do. I think that when you're that transparent, you got to have a certain maturity to be able to have those kind of transparent conversations. If you're not mature enough to handle that, you're flipping. you're going all the way, because you've created almost an atmosphere of conversation that says, boy, if we're not mature about this, we're just going to jump over the bridge and do whatever we want to do at some point.
Exactly. And if that's occurring in your conversation while you're still acquaintances or friends, imagine what it would be like if you were in a committed relationship. I think that's a sign. But to your point, Miss Leah and Cedric, you have to believe that these women are out here, because they are. And if you don't believe that they're out here, I think you'll give up or abandon ship, just assuming every woman that I talk to does not want to remain sexually pure until marriage. So maybe I'm wrong for wanting to be sexually pure. No, do not compromise that. There are certain things in a relationship that you do compromise. You might compromise your time, compromise your schedule, but you're never going to compromise your purity. Do not compromise your convictions. Do not compromise your values, especially sexual purity. that is biblical. That is a crux. That's a foundation, because it's not just abstaining from sex. It is obeying God. It's not just a physical act. It's an emotional and a spiritual act that God made good, but that God restricted, that God made solely for married couples. And you want to pursue a woman who's like-minded in that way. So don't give up, because these women are out here, but also don't compromise.
But
I'm
see,
a little shakedown on that word restricted, Brother Joshua. Restricted it. I think that's what got the old church in trouble, right? Is we saw God's law and his expectation for relationships as restrictions. And normally restrictions on people, in a human design, it doesn't work. You restrict me, I'm trying to come out, right?
Right.
I think a different way of saying that might be that God designed sex as beautiful, but he also felt it was best with responsibility and covenant, right? That's really what God has given. His rule book, it's not really should be considered a rule book. It's really a relationship book. It tells the best design for having effective and essential relationships. And if you follow this plan, right, this playbook, then if I'm going to borrow my husband's analogies, right, if we follow the playbook, then we will get rid of some of the hurtful things that come when we have relationships, sexual relationships outside of responsibility and covenant, and we will enjoy the privileges that come along with a committed and covenant-based relating. So I just want to.
Yeah, it's almost like God is looking out for our best interests. And that's what he does. The other thing, let's be real about it. The great majority of people today do not come in this world and live their life. They're virgins. That world is gone. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist, but there's just so much happening today that they are, without a question, well, you might think they may be the minority and not the majority. But, if you're seeking, so you're going around the world looking for, I'm going around and I'm looking for a virgin. I'm just trying to find me a virgin. I don't understand. If you see a woman, the first thing you're not thinking is she a virgin?
Right.
You like what you see.
Right.
You're not trying to say, well, I don't know if I'm going to ask her because she might not be a virgin, and I don't know if I want to have a relationship with her. I think that's absurd. I don't think that works. So, yeah, good conversation.